shifted the way that I saw my moments, because I knew that very regular days can quickly become days that change you. I am so excited for today's video, and I think that this might become a series because there are so many things that I want to share with you today. But I want to talk to you a little bit about my why. On this channel, I'm making videos about my life, and the theme of them is embracing beauty, and that's something that I try to do every day in different aspects of my life. And it occurred to me that I haven't yet to articulate the reason why I believe that embracing beauty and living a life of celebration in small ways and in big ways is so important. And I want to share this with you, number one, so you can understand the perspective I'm coming from, but also to encourage you to really examine your own life and to examine your own story and honestly the faithfulness of God. I'm a Christian. I believe that God created the world and that he wants to have a relationship with you, and I have encountered him in some really incredible ways. And we've all been through a lot, and I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I would be honest, and I would be honestly remiss, as they say, if I didn't say that I've been through a lot, and that the only reason I'm here is because of the faithfulness of God, and those things that he's brought me through have changed the way that I look at everything. So today I just want to talk to you about one of those things. I'm going to be folding my laundry, get a cup of coffee, get a task, maybe go through your paper or your trash, sort something, because this is just going to be a chatty video about that. But I want to start it by reading you a passage that has just really struck me lately, and I think it'll give a good framework for this conversation and some of the ones to come on the same theme. What I'm going to read to you is from Mark 5. I'm going to do verse 1 through verse 20. So Mark 5 says this: They came to the other side of the sea, to a region of the Gerasenes. Ooh, sorry, I butchered that. And as soon as he got out of the boat, he, meaning Jesus, a man with an unclean spirit, came out of the tombs and met him. And he lived in the tombs, and no one was able to restrain him anymore, not even with a chain, because he often had been bound with shackles and chains, but had torn the chains apart and smashed the shackles, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day, among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. And when he came and he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran to him and knelt before him. And he cried out with a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you before God, don't torment me." For he had told him, "Come out of that man, you unclean spirit." So Jesus had told the spirit in this man that was causing him to act this way to come out. "What is your name?" he asked him. "My name is Legion," he answered him, "because we are many." And he begged him earnestly not to send him out of that region. So there was a large herd of pigs there feeding on the hillside, and the demons begged him, "Send us into the pigs so that we can go and enter them." And so he gave them permission. Jesus gives this collection of demons permission. Legion. And the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd of about 2,000 rushed down the steep bank and into the sea and drowned there. Now the men who tended the pigs ran off to report it to the town and the countryside, and the people went to see what had happened. And they came to Jesus and saw the man who was demon-possessed sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told them about the pigs. And then they began to beg him, being Jesus, to leave the region. So the people who saw what happened explain it to the townspeople who were running up, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, get out of here, Jesus, this is terrible." Basically, they don't like what has happened. The last two verses say, as Jesus was getting into the boat to leave, because they asked him to leave, the man who had been demon possessed begged him earnestly that he might remain with him, with Jesus. And Jesus did not let him, but told him, "Go home to your own people and report to them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." And so he went out and began to proclaim in Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And they were all amazed. And I kind of have felt that way, you know. I felt like, oh, Jesus, I just want to go with you. And I feel like God has said to me most recently to come back to my own people and to let them know what God has done for me and how he's had mercy on me, so that they can see how amazing he is. So I was thinking the other day, like, okay, why do I feel like every day should be a celebration? And when did I start to feel this way? There are so many different aspects of it. One aspect that I won't get into today is just the mentality that I've inherited from my family. This is a plaque that reminds me of my grandma. She used to always say "skoo, skoo, skoo," and she and my whole family have always really been celebratory. But I began to own that actually when I was in high school and one of my good friends passed away. So let me tell you what happened. It was Memorial Day weekend, and I really wanted to go out of town to hang out with a group of my friends. And so I was asking my parents, you know, oh, I want to go out of town. Can I go out of town? Can I please? And for some reason, my parents told me no. And that was really uncommon, honestly, because usually if I was asking to do something that was like fairly neutral, my parents would just let me do it. I didn't have a lot of trouble getting to do trips or different things that I wanted to do. I wasn't often grounded, nothing like that. So this instance was really strange for me, and I frankly as a teenager just did not respond well. I remember leading up to that weekend just like fighting with my mom and just being really upset that she had told me no, because I couldn't understand why she told me not to. And honestly, she never really explained it. She just didn't want me to go out of town. And so that week, instead, I was doing like a serve day at the theater where I worked. And I remember getting a phone call and being told that there was an incident with my friend at the lake, and that it wasn't good and they couldn't find him. And so I left and I went home, and at that point I didn't really know what to do, because it's like, do you go to the lake to try to help them find them? The friend who they couldn't find, his name is Jordan, and he was an extremely good swimmer. And I knew that partially he was like training to become a Marine, but then a couple years before that, we were swimming in a water hole with like a waterfall, like a fresh waterfall. And I am not as strong of a swimmer, and I don't have a lot of buoyancy, and so sometimes I struggle in fresh water. And we were swimming across that water hole, and I remember I got about halfway through and I started to sink. Like I couldn't, my stamina was down and I couldn't keep going. And I said, oh my gosh, like I can't do this. And that friend, Jordan, reached out and grabbed me and helped me to get all the way to the other side. And it was not a small water hole, a very strong swimmer. So the fact that they couldn't find him was just crazy. They look and they look and they look. A couple hours go by and I get a call from one of my best friends, and basically they found him. They were dragging the bottom and he had passed away, and it didn't make any sense, but he was gone. And my friend Jordan, who drowned, was literally one of the most vibrant people that I still to this day have ever met. Passionate about the Lord, ridiculous, like very open-hearted, as we would say now, unhinged, and so much fun, the life of the party. And he was a person who didn't live their lives with regret, and encouraged me to live my life that way as well, to the point of like calling me out. You know, like there were things that, there are a lot of instances that I won't share here for the sake of the privacy of the individuals, where he called me out and said, hey, you know, don't waste your life, don't waste your time, make sure that you seize the day, carpe diem, right? And he lived that way, and it really shook me, you know, like that was the first person who was close to me that I had lost, who was young, and I was like 17 at the time, And I knew that life was short, and I knew that it was fragile, but I hadn't been interrupted yet the way and that I was then. And if you've ever lost anybody, you know how loss kind of makes the world stand still. Death, I really believe, is not something that God ever intended to happen. And so when we encounter it, we still don't know how to process it. And that's a huge reason I'm so thankful for the gospel and for what Jesus did on the cross, because even though we still bump up against sin and death every day of this life, in the life to come, it doesn't have to be that way. And he set us free from the power of sin and death in this life. So anyway, that really shaped me. It marked me. It's like it shifted the way that I saw my moments, because I knew that very regular days can quickly become days that change you. And people who are a part of your daily life, and you just almost take it for granted that they would be there because they're a part of the fabric of your world, can be taken from you in an instant. And when you realize that, you kind of have a choice to make. You can either be very tight-fisted and scared, become bitter, and embrace a scarcity mentality because life is short, or it can cause you to open your hands and embrace. And it makes me think of that verse that says, teach us to number our days that we might gain a heart of wisdom. Learning to number your days, to realize that life is a vapor, can give you the gift of a heart of wisdom if you let it. And the choice is yours every day, and that doesn't mean that we deny the difficult things, and that doesn't mean that we just walk around pretending that everything is joy and rainbows, but there is freedom in choosing to walk in joy and to embrace the things that are good, and to not allow the muck and the mire of this world to weigh you down. And the honest truth is, the way that I do that, and I have so many more stories to tell you, this is just one, is by clinging to what I know to be true about the gospel of Jesus Christ and the fact that he did break the power of sin and death. And what I see and have here in this world is just a shadow of the things to come. And so I don't have to worry, and with that friend, a huge comfort that I have is that we'll spend eternity together. But what is it going to look like today? And am I going to let that not matter, or just pass as a really dark day and not redeem that time? And so it was pretty incredible, because at his funeral, that's one of the most full funerals I've ever been to in my life. It was packed, and to see the types of people from all different walks of life who came, truly incredible. And I want my life to matter. I want to be a person who brings that kind of joy to the people around me, and who leaves a mark on them, so that double that time that they knew me later, they still think about it, and it causes them to be better. So that's just a little piece of my story. I hope that this encourages you. I'd love to know if there have been moments in your life that you would want to share that have shaped you and caused you to embrace beauty and to see life differently, and to seize the day, and to embrace the good with the difficult, and to not give up hope. Because I think it's important, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And I think the enemy would like nothing more than for us to pretend that those hopeful aspects and these parts of our story that have been redeemed don't exist. He doesn't want us to tell other people. He wants us to just huddle together, think about it in our hearts sometimes, and mostly forget, just go on about our business. But we crush that power of the enemy when we speak of our triumph and the victory that we have. And when we choose to, just do little things that make us smile in Jesus' name, like putting lemon in your water in a really hard day, when you could just, sit down and say, you know what, I give up, not another tantrum, or whatever it is. When we keep fighting and we keep embracing the good and we keep focusing on the things that are true and excellent and praiseworthy and living like we're people whose identity isn't based here on this world, that changes everything. So I hope that this encouraged you. I know that this is very different content than I typically put out, but I would love to know what you think, and if it was encouraging to you, and if you'd like to see more. Like I said, I have so many stories that I could share with you about the reasons why I think the way I think and I do the things that I do. And it's not just about picking good color palettes and making fun parties, although I love to do that and I will continue to do that, but it's about a lot more than that to me. And so anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.